is do some sage about it. So, we're on episode 4, and those of you who made it past the first episode, you guys are fucking rock stars, because that one, it's rough. But I am happy and excited to be on the 4th episode. Super excited because we have, like, one listener in Germany, which is, like, it's huge for me. So, I guess we'll just jump into the stories today.
This is about the Salem's First Church. They could have picked a better name, but whatever they want to call it. But it's in Salem, Massachusetts.
Was it the first church in Salem?
No, actually, it was the third.
Oh. Well.
So I don't really understand. But the church was built in 1634, and since then it's been relocated and rebuilt multiple times. It was a church up until 1923. Then it was a bank, then a jewelry store, and it's now a restaurant. On April 11th, 1692, Elizabeth and John Proctor were brought to the church because they were suspected of practicing witchcraft. There was this troublemaker, as they called her, named Mercy Lewis, who said the Proctors were tormenting her and they would pinch her and tear at her bowels from the inside due to the dark arts that they were practicing. But the Proctors both had led upstanding Christian lives. Because of this, they had in fact, been charged with the witchcraft. The members of the community did not agree with that. So they had a large number of signatures. So they had gotten a large amount of signatures from the members of the community, since these people were very Christian people and they didn't really see them doing things like that. So they gotten all these signatures, and then the people who had given their signatures started to question the claims Mercy Lewis was making against the Proctors. But Mercy was still very adamant about the fact that the Proctors were torturing her, but she did admit to having a little fun at the expense of them being hated. So it was Mercy and her friends. There were just a lot of her friends. They were all having fun at the fact.
Lying to the court.
She still stuck to her accusations and was adding on more about it to just kind of exaggerate it more, I guess.
As they tended to do in the 1600s when they were trying to kill people and claim they were witches.
Yup. But she kept going to the point. This led to a doctor checking the Proctors for birth defects, marks, and other markings that tended to be linked to witchcraft. And even though the examination proved that there was no such defect or mark, both of the Proctors were found guilty of witchcraft. And on August 5th, 1692, both were sentenced to be executed, but Elizabeth was pregnant, so she was given a delayed execution till the birth of her child. Luckily, during the pregnancy, witchcraft kind of died down, quieted. There was not much done about it. So she was freed, and the same girls who were accusing the Proctors, so all of Mercy's friends, all of her friends, they started now accusing Mary Phipp, who was the governor's wife.
Oh.
So at that point, because the governor was I'm not going to imprison my wife for this, he released all 153 prisoners that were awaiting trial for alleged witchcraft, and that was with Elizabeth included.
So he just basically realized that the girls were lying?
Yeah, but history shows that there was a sea captain who visited the church with this girl, Sarah. So he frequented the church with this girl, Sarah. When the sea captain was on shore leave, he would try to court Sarah, but she was in love with a young sailor who was also with the sea captain. But he was an older man.
Wait. Like with
No,
him,
like,
or just on the same boat?
On the same boat. Like, they were, he was part of his crew.
Gotcha. I
But
was confused.
yeah, they weren't together. They were just on the same ship.
Okay.
When the captain learned about the fact that she was in love with another man. But I mean, Sarah had never given this man any yeses to go anywhere with him. He was just delusional.
Oh.
So, but when he learned about that, he felt so betrayed. Which I don't get why. She never, like, assured him that, yeah, we're going to be a thing. He decided that if he couldn't have her, no one could.
Mm.
So he lured her to the alleyway alongside the church. He was filled with rage and jealousy and didn't know what else to do. So then he proceeded to brutally murder her by beating her in the head with a board.
Seems legit. Like, what else would you do, right?
And so then, after
Don't bother leaving the woman alone or finding a different woman. Just kill her.
kill her.
Just kill her. It's okay.
But because he had just done this right next to the church, he goes into church, looks the minister in the face, and asks him to help him hide the body.
The minister.
Mm-hmm. The captain asked the minister to help him hide her. So then they go to the underground tunnels that were beneath the church, and they bury her body
In the tunnel.
in the tunnels.
Okay. A man of God helped another man cover up a murder and dispose of the corpse.
The two main apparitions that are seen at what's now the restaurant, there's the lady in blue, which is Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the man in black, who is the minister who helped hide her body. It has been said that Sarah is a super nice, caring woman, takes care of kids who come into the restaurant, and the minister is known to be a very malevolent being. It's said that he lashes out at women in the most dangerous ways.
Oh,
Okay.
He
He was a misogynist asshole.
sounds like it.
He believed no one was above him other than God, that God was 100% a man, that women didn't deserve to be correct, or that they didn't deserve to have rights over men. He hated women he refused to even get married because he hated women that much. But he said if he ever did get married, he would 100% make sure that she wouldn't do anything out of pocket. She was to stay home.
Was submissive.
Yeah, 100%
No.
submissive.
No. That is what we call toxic masculinity, and we are breeding that out of our children. Mm-hmm. Right, people? Right.
It has been claimed that because she was buried in the tunnels by the minister, they can hear her asking him, "Why'd you help hide the body? I attended your church. Like, I respected you, and you helped him hide my body out of jealousy." Like, you can hear them kind of bickering, and then you can hear the minister just scream at her for talking without being spoken to. There's also been times where children have been in the restaurant, and then it's known that Sarah has done what the kids have called earmuffs, when the minister starts getting angry and just annoyed. She's known to stay in the lower parts of the restaurant, but he's known to stay in the upper parts of it.
And just be a complete
dick.
Jerk.
Yep.
Yelling at women, right?
Mm-hmm. And even the employees have been shoved by him and scratched. Some have just ended their shifts covered in bruises that they did not have before the start of their shifts. And it got so bad to the point that none of the employees felt safe to go down to the basement, and this is where they kept all of their dry stock, and they pretty much kept everything down there. Say they needed extra chairs for the restaurant, everything was kept in the basement. And it has been claimed that the tunnels inhabit the sounds of really, really loud, heavy footsteps, kind of like someone stomping or even running. They don't know how to walk, though.
In the tunnel?
Yeah, in the tunnels.
Okay.
Footsteps have been heard in the tunnels. A lot of ghostly moaning.
Oh.
Yeah. And...
Like, okay. That, I don't know.
That seems a little...
I maybe call bullshit on
exaggerated.
that one, yeah.
There's also been what's been said to be frightening sources of energy that can be felt upon even just thinking about going down into the basement. But some also argue that the man in black is a jewelry store clerk from when the church's lowest level was a jewelry store, which was called the Daniel Lowe & Co. Jewelry Shop. It was open from 1874 to 1995.
So it had a good run, 100 plus years.
But the owner of it, Daniel Lowe, he kind of went a little crazy and shut himself in the jewelry store.
Why?
All it said was he was going through a lot. His son had been diagnosed with cancer.
Oh.
And
probably financial too.
Yeah,
that would have to be expensive.
He was just going through it and couldn't take it, and it kind of drove him a little crazy to just shut himself. And so they say it could also be Daniel Lowe, but Daniel Lowe wasn't known as a man who hated women. He loved his wife. He loved his daughters, his sisters. He was...
Wait, is this the guy that killed himself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's thought not because he didn't have, like, a hatred of women.
They just thought maybe it could have been him, but he wasn't known to be like the minister was. He wasn't known to hate women, and for the ghost to hate women as much as he does, it seems a little far-fetched that it could be Daniel Lowe. And it has been said that there is other ghosts that come out, but not frequently. They're kind of more shy and keep to themselves.
Like Sarah.
Yeah, like
but
Sarah.
Sarah comes out kind of...
She comes out to protect
yeah.
To protect people. But they had said it could have been him, but when he was alive, they said he was really in touch with his feminine side, and he adored the women, and like any women, but especially women in his life. When it was a bank, there was this dude who had come in. He was just kind of at his wits' end. He was just done. And this was like towards the very end of the 90s, early 2000s.
So when did this place become a restaurant?
After the
bank. Okay.
But when it was the bank, this man came in. He had just lost everything. He had come in just so over life, but he had just come in completely done. And so he goes up to one of the bank tellers, starts threatening, and he didn't even really rob the bank. He just didn't know what else to do, so he was just taking lives. He went up to that bank teller, was threatening her with a gun. Someone else who was just in the bank trying to get money out or put money in tried to step in to, calm him down, like, hey, it's okay, it's gonna be okay. He shoots her in the head.
Jesus.
Looks at the bank teller. The cops are starting to come in. Someone, like banks have the alarms that go off. The bank tellers.
The silent alarm, yeah.
Yeah, it hit the silent alarms. The police are coming in. Others are on the phone with 911. The police start coming in. They've got him pretty much cornered. But before they get there, she shoots the bank teller. They come in. He's cornered. He says that they're not gonna take him alive. So then, before they could even shoot him, he shot himself after shooting both the bystander and the bank teller. He was around in his, 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So even if he had gone to prison, a life sentence is 25 years, and he would have gotten that probably just for one of the murders.
Yeah.
So having the two, he would have been in there for the rest of his life, and he did not want to rot away in a jail cell. So that's the end of what they call Salem's First Church, even though it was in fact the third built.
So what's the name of the restaurant that it is now?
Is now, and it's still open, but it is now the Rockefeller Restaurant. And if you go in, there is a painting of Sarah in her blue dress, and there's a drink named after her because she's known as the protector.
Oh, that's nice of them. Alright, so my story is out of Pensacola, Florida, and it's about Fort Pickens. Fort Pickens was built in 1834 as part of the plan to fortify the coastal areas from invasion after the War of 1812. It took them 5 whole years to build, and they used 21.5 million bricks, so it was like a huge structure. It was the only fort in the South to remain in Union hands throughout the war, and this was primarily due to Lieutenant Adam J. Slemmer. He maintained control the whole time, and it was not directly attacked during the war. After this, the fort was used as a prison during the Indian War, and it held one of the most famous Indian warriors, and his name was Geronimo. So that should be a name that most everybody knows. If you've ever paid attention in history class, you should know this name.
They even have shows and stuff about Geronimo.
Yeah, you should know this name, no doubt. So there were 2 notable tragedies, but only one of them took a life. Both of them were fires. The first was January 20th of 1858, and that fire did destroy a lot of, the internal buildings. And then the second one was in 1899, and a fire broke out in the D Bastion, and it slowly spread to the fort's power magazine, and in doing so, it ignited 8,000 pounds of gunpowder, and this did kill 1 soldier. It blew like a huge hole in the wall, and that they never replaced it. That hole is still there. So most of the ghost stories that come out of here involve Native American spirits. A lot of people claim to hear chanting and whispering in the native tongue that was around during that time. And a lot of people think it was, or it is, Geronimo and the people he was imprisoned with, because they were caught at a place called Skeleton Canyon, and when they were caught, they had an agreement with the prison people where they weren't going to be mistreated or whatever. And as far as I can tell, they were not abused, but they were forced to do hard labor, manual labor. And Geronimo was kind of treated like a sideshow, a money-making monkey, because he was dragged all over the United States to fairs and such to sign autographs, sign pictures, because white people wanted to see these native savages. So he was forced to go on all these trips, was not, agreeable about it, but, they decided that putting him on show, making a spectacle out of him, because it brought them money. They just wanted to do that. So near where their explosion happened in 1899, people feel overcome with emotion, and they get a strong sense of fear and panic. There are a lot of claims of orbs and mysterious electronic voice phenomena. So the orbs they show up in photos, and one of the ghost hunters who has been to this fort claims that the orbs in the pictures, they're like very round, very circular orbs. And so they cannot really be mistaken for dust particles or bugs, because bugs are not perfectly round. They've got legs, they've got wings, especially if they're in the air flying. You'll see some kind of jut out of legs or wings or something. Um, they also claim to see a woman with no face. They think she is a Native American woman. Um, it is said that there's a lot of shadowy figures in the hallway. They touch you, like they grab your shoulder or your arm, or your back. They touch your back. If you're just kind of hanging out, looking around at stuff, because it's a fort and now it's more like a museum. So they've got pictures and statues and stuff. And so when people are on tours and they're just standing there looking at something, they'll see, or hear rather, voices next to them and people touching them, and then they're like the only one in that space. So that's kind of creepy. So a lot of people do believe that Geronimo is haunting this fort because this is where he spent most of his time. This is where he went when he was first arrested. And this is kind of where the whole thing of him being paraded around and made money off of started. So a lot of people think that he's kind of coming back to torture and harass the people who are there, like the spectators and everything, not just the people that work there anymore, because he's pissed, because they did make an agreement that he and his band of other Native Americans were not going to be treated poorly. They were not supposed to be doing hard manual labor, and they were being forced to. Like, the prison did not give a single fuck about what the agreement said.
I have to go check it out.
Yeah, probably.
Take a day trip there.
Yeah.
Just go look around it.
During the summer when we usually go.
Go check out the hole in the wall. The place
Haunted by Geronimo.
The place is a real hole in the wall.
So that is Fort Pickens. I know we've had some forts on here that have been crazy. This seems to be
the calmest one yet.
Yeah, this seems to be pretty tame, because mainly what people are seeing or hearing is just whispering or, gently being touched. It's not like the ghosts are trying to kick your ass or anything like that. So, anybody who's ever been, especially my Florida listeners, my coastal listeners, and you've had an experience or, whatever, let us know, because I'd like to see if it's actually worth going for the paranormal aspect of it.
So this is Stony Hollow Road. It's in Burlington, Iowa. During the day, it just seems like any other really country road. There's cows, horses, nothing but open land and open field for miles.
So it's a country road.
Mm-hmm. Except there's a cliff that towers over a pretty decent chunk of the road. This is where you'll find the road ghost.
The road ghost.
AKA Lucinda. It has been said that she was waiting for her husband at that spot, but he was like 4 or 5 hours late. Mind you, they have only been married for a week. It's the 1800s. Arranged marriages are one of the biggest things. So she had just even met this man a week ago. So she, out of everything, she assumed he had run away with another woman.
Okay. Like, the first thought wasn't...
Something happened to him.
Yeah.
Nope, just, oh no, he's cheating on me.
Oh,
So.
Okay, after a whole week?
Yep.
Okay.
And because of this, she, I guess, got lost in the thought, climbed to the top of the cliff, and jumped to her death.
Jumped, not fell.
Nope,
Jumped.
she full on jumped.
Over a week-long relationship.
Yep.
With zero proof that this man was being unfaithful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That sounds legit, I guess.
And then her husband shows up to find his bride in the middle of the street, just gone. He had been delayed because his wagon got stuck in the mud.
So he's the one that found her.
Yes, he found her.
Oh, sad.
But that spot remains, in fact, very haunted. You can feel someone's watching you. You can feel the sorrow from her. It's also said that if you shout her name 3 times.
Like Beetlejuice.
And it has to be after dark.
Oh.
Kind of like how Bloody Mary, you have to be in the bathroom, no lights, candles, look in the mirror. It's kind of like that with Lucinda. It has to be dark and you have to be standing where she ended up. And you have to look up and say it, and it has been said that she will float down to you.
I like the little finger thing you did.
Yeah. In the kind of way she jumped. Yeah. It really depends, but she is known to lay a rose at your feet. And if she lays this rose at your feet, you go crazy and also meet your suicidal demise.
Oh.
It has been said that it's mainly men. Some men that she feels are unfaithful to their women. She leaves them a rose. Some women that she feels are unfaithful to their men. She also gives a rose. But some people have gone and done it and not been given a rose. And the rose that's laid at your feet is not an alive rose. It's obviously on its very last limb of decay. It's known that when the last petal falls off of the dying rose, that's when you slowly start going crazy as the petals are falling off. But as soon as it's done, you've just completely lost it and just end up taking your life. Some have also jumped, some have hung themselves, overdosed.
So it's not
it's
one way every time.
It's pretty much any way they can do it. The lady who had been given roses, she had done it with her friends as a joke. Just, see if it was real. She had been given one. And later that night, after she had done this, she had gone to a party with her friends and been unfaithful. There was nothing about her being really unfaithful before the party. But after that, she was receiving a different rose every day. She was refusing to let it get to her. After a week, Lucinda decided, you're doing this whether you like it or not. It's you're coming with me. So then her boyfriend gets to her house and sees a shadow that had resembled Lucinda setting the noose for his girlfriend. And he said it had looked like she had lifted her up and placed her in the noose since she wouldn't take her own life. She did it for her. And then there was a story about a man who was extremely unfaithful to his wife. He didn't even make it 3 hours after getting the rose.
Wow. So I guess maybe it sounds like the more unfaithful they are, the quicker they kill themselves. Maybe.
But I'm not like I don't know. Lucinda's husband could have been unfaithful in that week, but I feel like killing yourself because he was 4 to 5 hours late is a little bit extreme.
That's not a little bit. That's a lot. A lot of extreme. Like, don't kill yourself. Kill them. Well, don't kill anybody, but it's not worth it.
But yep, that's Stony Hollow Road and Lucinda, the road ghost.
Well, we're gonna leave that cliff and go to a different cliff in Florida, another Florida story on Anastasia Island. It is where the St. Augustine Lighthouse sits. It was built in the early to mid 1500s, and it stands 164 feet tall. And it is on like a rocky cliff, like most lighthouses that are out there to alert seafarers of approaching land. So the main spirit that people see there, they call the man, and it seems like he is a past caretaker. What they see is a shadowy figure with a lingering smell of cigar smoke, accompanied by a sense of fear and foreboding. So they see this shadow figure. He smells yucky, because cigars are yucky. And for some reason, they feel very afraid. I don't know if it's afraid of him or just afraid in general. But he is often seen wearing a blue jacket and a mariner's cap. And he is seen walking up and down the spiral staircase, or like looking down at people from the catwalk above. And that would basically be his normal route, to make sure that everything is good and kosher and nobody's broken in. This was during the time before lighthouses were automated, so they had to manually move the lights and stuff to alert sailors or anything out, in the sea that something, they're coming up on land and they need to be careful. Due to this shadowy figure's tall, thin frame, they believe it to be the ghost of William Russell, who was a lightkeeper from the 1850s. But other people believe it to be Joseph Andrew, a painter who plummeted from the scaffolding in 1859. A lot of people claim to hear like creepy children's laughter either directly at the lighthouse or like in the forest or the woods surrounding. And this is believed to be the Piety girls, Mary, 15, and Eliza, who was 13. In 1872, the lighthouse was undergoing construction and was being overseen by a man named, I'm going to butcher this, but I think it's Hezekiah Piety. And he and his wife and their 2 girls were staying on the island while the lighthouse was being redone, basically, like repainted. They were all staying on the property while the lighthouse was being redone. And it wasn't just his family, it was all the workers and their families, because this was a big project. But one day, the Piety girls were playing with the other children near the lighthouse, and there was a rail cart that the construction crew was using to transport supplies from the nearby pier to the lighthouse. And the girls, being girls, well, just kids in general, they like to play pretend. And so the two girls and one of their little friends, who was an African American girl who was about 10, her name was not mentioned, but the three of them loved to play pretend, and they were pretending to be Spanish pirates moving their hoarded treasure to a secret location. So they would get in the rail carts and kind of push each other back and forth and, around the track. But one day they were on the railing in the cart, and it went off the railing. And the girls in the cart went over the edge of the cliff that the lighthouse was on. And some of the other children fell down as well, and they were rescued, but they could not get to these three girls in time. So they fell basically to their death on the sharp rocks and the rough waves below the lighthouse. So it is thought to be those children that are being heard laughing like out in the area. Another person that is seen often is the woman of the catwalk. Her name, and I'm going to butcher this one as well, it is Maria Mestre de los Dolores. In 1859, she became not only the first woman to serve the U.S. Coast Guard, but was also the first Hispanic American woman to command a federal shore installation, and that was the St. Augustine Lighthouse. She was also the wife of the painter who fell to his death, so she is often seen standing on the catwalk above, looking down, which is like she watched her husband fall to his death, and that's where she was when, he landed. So, she kind of basically just walks the catwalk, I guess, stuck there because that was like a super tragic thing that she witnessed.
And most ghosts stay where there's been more trauma.
Yeah, and that was her husband. So it doesn't say whether or not she was in charge of the lighthouse before his death or after. I would think probably before, and that's how he ended up getting the job. Because he was working on the construction. He was over doing the painting and all that. So I would assume she probably was already in charge, and that's how he ended up being at the lighthouse. So she probably feels like some form of regret, a responsibility, because if she was working there and she did get him that job, maybe she feels like had she not brought him in, he wouldn't be dead. So, I guess because that's where he died, that's where she chose to stay after she died. So, we'll post pictures of, all these things that we've talked about on our socials. This lighthouse, it's beautiful. And it looks like a regular lighthouse, but it's really pretty. And it is one of the oldest that still stand. But in 2019, Ghost Hunters did do a walkthrough of this lighthouse, and they found some interesting things. So if you guys haven't seen that, go look it up, watch it. It kind of gives you a rundown of the ghosts and what they do and where you can find them. So anybody in Florida that's been here, let me know. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who has listened so far. It means the world to us, like, big time. We don't have any Patreons yet, I don't think, but that's okay. We'll get there. The the audio is still kind of finicky. We are trying. I am basically self-taught on how to edit and record and all that good stuff. So give me a break. But wherever you guys are listening to us now is where you can continue. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere that
We're also on
podcasts.
YouTube now.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. Anywhere that podcasts are available, you'll probably find us there. We did have to change the Facebook because it would not let me link the accounts. So for Facebook, it's going to be DSSAI Pod, not podcast anymore. But the rest of the socials, it's going to be at DSSAI Podcast. And that's Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. Did I already say Twitter?
Yeah, you said Twitter first.
Okay, Twitter. If you want to email us, it's going to be dssaipodcast@gmail.com. Send in those listener stories, comments, etc. And wherever you do listen to us, if you have the ability to rate or leave a comment, please do, because it boosts us in the algorithm and, potentially gets us more listeners who wouldn't have found us otherwise. Specifically important to Apple Podcast. But that is the end of this episode. Again, episode 4. It's kind of crazy. We are hoping to drop episodes every Tuesday and Friday. So you get 2 a week. And then once we get enough listener stories, we're going to start incorporating those in probably once a month, depending on how many we get. So, again, thank you guys. We love you. Stay spooky. Okay, bye.
Bye.